Okay, I'm Ryan. You all remember me, hopefully. Were you all here last time?
Yeah, everybody was. It's here. Yeah.
Okay, neat.
Last time there was only one person.
Good turnout today. So, we're going to talk about video today. You aren't required to shoot video for your final project, but you have the option to, as well. As I talked about last time, having video multimedia skills on your resume can only help you, if not be, the requirement. There are no more jobs at newspapers anymore that will be for still only. And also, it just makes yourself more marketable. If you want to be a photographer, it's great to be able to branch off. If you want to shoot weddings, being able to say you could do video as well, or that you could shoot a wedding and then put together some sort of multimedia piece at the end, equals more money, makes you more marketable. I got a wedding last summer. The reason I sealed the deal and beat out the other photographer, the bride chose me because I told her I'd be able to take her wedding, put it together with some music and a couple interviews, and produce a multimedia piece. And so, it's important skills to have. So I've put together video shooting tips, which we're going to be going through. This is kind of my first time ever putting something like this together. I'll probably be adding more things to it as we go. These are the basics. And the first thing to start with is why video? Should you do video? Very important. You've got to ask yourself, is this a visual story? Should you even be doing this as video? If it's just a talking head, not too interesting. Unless that talking head is the most compelling, tear-jerking, amazing narrative ever.
That one's actually just from last.
Yeah. Sorry. Unless it's the most tear-jerking, amazing narrative ever, and it doesn't need imagery because it's so compelling to watch this woman pour her heart out in front of the camera. But it's probably not that. So, you have to be able to make something boring exciting. Remember what I said last time? With multimedia, from the very beginning to the very end, it's trying to be crap. Every step along the way, every single thing you do is trying to go wrong. Everything's trying to fail. And so you have to know the tricks and the little things to make it look good. On this list, is this a visual story? Talking heads are boring. Is video the best way to tell the story? Sometimes, just a sound slide. Sometimes, multimedia, it isn't multimedia. Sometimes, a strong photo story can be better. Is value added to the viewer? This is something I always ask, if the person reads the story or learns about the story and then sees the video, are they going to say, wow, that was a great addition to the package? Or are they going to say, that was a waste of my time? If it's a waste of time to them, then it's an even bigger waste of time to you, because you may have wasted 2 minutes of their time, but you wasted 6 hours of your time. So, before you attack anything, don't just do it for the sake of doing video. So check something. Yay. So, there's different types of videos too. You have to wonder, events. You're going to the Burke Binder or Burker Builder, whatever you were talking about before, going to a one event or once a year kind of event like that and shooting it. The story is the event. You just need someone telling you about the event, telling you what's happening today. There's the guide. That's the kind of thing where someone's leading you through something, showing you behind the stage, showing you how to do something. Profile is that thing where you're just, an interesting person, sitting down with an interview, them talking about themselves. Or a profile could be about an interesting store. You found a neat new store that makes this certain kind of widget that no one else makes. Doing a little thing about that store. Slice of life, that's the kind of thing where, a weather story, a hot day, you're doing a story about heat, you're doing something just about, it's winter, and you're doing a thing about kids playing ice hockey in the street, that kind of thing. And man on the street, also known as streeters. If you work in a newspaper, you'll have to do this, and it's the bane of your existence, but, opinion is important, and sometimes you have to go out and just get people's opinion. I say that that's often quite lazy. Often the easiest thing to say is, oh, let's just go and ask a bunch of people what they think. Then we'll make a video easily. I think that's lazy because it's the easiest thing to do. those are things. There's way more I'm sure you could think of, but you know, when you're trying to think what kind of video can I do, think about those 5 different things. So I'm going to show you some videos. Basically, I'm going to talk about the rules, the tips, the basics, the things you need to know. And what's important is to know these rules so that you can break them. Don't break rules to start. You know how to do something boring, and then once you know all the rules, then break them. And that's called being creative. So my style, as you'll see, is impact, action. Like I have tons of B-roll. I have like 100 cuts in my videos because I like having a fast pace and stuff. Majority of my things are 2 minutes or less. Internet video has to be a little bit shorter. If it is really, really compelling and really, really good, you can go longer. Globe and Mail stuff is like 8 minutes, 6 minutes typically. But if it's a really good, compelling story and really visually interesting, you can pull yourself into it that long. Yesterday I watched a New York Times video. I don't even know how long it was. I think it might have been 20 minutes long, but it was presented so well. And the way they presented it, I just kept watching. So again, as I said before, it should be long enough that it doesn't feel long. It is your rule, and it can always be shorter. So I'm going to start with one of my favorite videos. This is actually one of the earlier videos I did.
I have a question.
Yes, question.
What does B-roll mean?
B-roll is, we're not there yet. Okay, there's two important things. This is the simplest thing to know. You need your A-roll and your B-roll. Your A-roll is your video or audio of a person explaining the story. The person, the interview, the stand-up, the main video that's telling the story. Your B-roll is your kind of little secondary shots, your cover-up, you have the person talking there for 2 minutes, and because a boring person talking for 2 minutes is boring, you cover them up with shots. Now, some people are insulted to say cover-up, or even B-roll. They call it visual sequences. That's kind of the fancier term for it. And I agree. I'm a photographer first, and I say every shot you take should be a photograph. You should be able to take a frame grab of every single image in your video, and it would actually be an interesting photo. And that's one thing. The second thing I say there in the basics is this a good shot? Would it make an interesting still image? If you're just standing there boring, if you took that photo, would it be boring? And you can get creative. Being a good videographer is being a photographer. A lot of people think they're separate things, they're different things. There's the photography world and the videography world. They're actually a lot the same. And one thing that's great about video is the more you learn about it, it's a completely different world. The more you learn about it, the more you appreciate it. You start watching TV, Discovery Channel, you watch movies, and now you start analyzing and breaking stuff down. The more you learn about it, the more you notice things. And when you're watching a news program or you're watching a movie, you'll go, oh, look at that, and you'll realize why things are done the way they are. It can get kind of annoying, maybe, because it kind of ruins everything, but I don't find that way. I find now, the more you learn about video, now whenever I do watch TV, I'm learning. Every time I see something neat, I go, oh, how'd they do that? And TV's actually a different experience. Unless you're wanting to turn your brain off for Survivor, then forget about it. So, I'm just going to show a video and then kind of get into these. So, A-roll is your interview. This is a video of cheerleading finals. And A-roll is the cheerleader girl explaining what's happening today. B-roll is everything else, covering up her interview with interesting visual things. And also with this, there's a lot of stills and video. How was I able to do both at the same time? Well, the cheerleaders weren't. Basically, every shot that is wide, the tripod is just sitting there, pointed at the cheerleaders, and hit record. And then I moved off to the side and took stills. And anything that's tight on the cheerleaders, I was actually videoing. So that's how I was able to do both at the same time.
These are the 23 teams from the Edmonton Zone that will be competing today.
Today was Edmonton Zones. There's 3 different divisions, the small varsity, large varsity, and co-ed.
It's just a great way to keep in shape and to represent your school, and it's a lot of fun. And you make good friends.
Yeah, you do. You really do.
We're here to tell you how it is and show you how it's done. Yellow, red, black, and white. Red, black, and white.
What happens is the top 3 teams in each division from our zones, from Edmonton zones, get to go to provincials. It's just grown so much in the last couple years. When I was in high school, there was like 2 co-ed teams, and now there's, you know, it's just grown so much. So. Some of the cheerleading movies that have come out, like Bring It On and whatnot, are positive for, you know, it shows the athleticism in it, so it's not just all about the stereotypical going out and rah-rah for the football teams. It really shows that these are athletes and they're working really hard, and it is a serious sport. The judging is based on, there's the criteria for the cheer and dance skills, so a lot of that is your enthusiasm and the crowd appeal and, you know, the use of your music and choreography, and then a lot of it has to do with jumps and stunts.
From WP Wagner High School.
Any questions before I blab more?
How long was that ride?
Too long. Everything's too long.
Well, no, you know what? I didn't mean it like that. I just meant, because it did seem longer than a couple minutes, but it didn't seem longer.
It's 2:51.
Yeah, it didn't seem longer in a bad way.
Yeah.
Because it had a lot of movement.
Yeah, it is actually longer. Again, this is one of the first videos I did. If I were to do that again, re-edit it, it would have been no more than 2 minutes. But it was almost 3 minutes, which is an eternity. But because it's fast paced, because it go, 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 go. I mean, did you guys feel like it was 3 minutes, or would you have clicked off halfway through?
No.
I guess that's your deciding thing. Now that you can't go wrong with a cheerleading competition. I mean, it was everything you shoot is interesting, screaming. A lot of cameras have a thing called mic attenuator, or it's called like mic at or mic attenuator. I didn't know what that was when I shot this, but now I wish I do. What mic attenuator, I think it's called, does is it turns the sensitivity of your mic down like 20 decibels. Which during a cheerleading competition is good to have, because almost all of my audio was blown out. Like there's a lot of parts where they're just screaming and the audio just gets all distorted because it's too loud. And so I think this is one of the only events I've been at where that would have come in handy. Usually you would have it off, but if you're at something really loud like a concert or a cheerleading competition, see if you have a thing called mic attenuator. It'll turn your mic down, and that can come in handy, because all my audio was just like editing that hurt my ears. It was bad.
So does it only do it when it's loud like that?
No, it just makes it everything is 20 decibels quieter. So it's also something you don't want on by accident, because then all your audio is going to sound too quiet. So
you would only, sorry to interrupt,
but
you would only use that when it's really loud.
Incredibly loud.
Turn it off when you're doing the interview.
Yeah.
Turn it on when you're going and shooting that.
Yeah.
The cheerleading.
Again, these are. I'm going to talk about some little things, I guess advanced things. They're kind of the things you don't worry about now. They're things that most advanced stuff, I would say, is best to learn by accident, because I could have read that mic attenuator thing in the manual, but I probably would have turned it on at the wrong time or not knowing when to do it. But knowing making a mistake and knowing when to use it, then I'll actually remember. So, but the thing with making mistakes means you have to actually go out and do this. And shoot your friends, shoot your family, shoot your dog, your cat. Actually play with your camera or anything. Now, again, I don't know if any of you have cameras or access to cameras. Again, you're not required for this class to do video, but it's a great skill to learn. You can get an HD video camera for like $500. A lot of these videos were shot with the Canon HV20, which is, you can get these for like $500 on eBay now. They're super cheap. The new version of this is called the HV30. It's like $800 or $900, and it's black, so it looks more pro. Mine here has this crazy thing on the front. This lets me put 35mm lenses on it, so I can pop a 15mm fisheye or a 300mm 2.8 on my video camera. Don't worry about that. But this little thing here, a lot of these videos I'm going to show you were just shot with a little $500 HD camera. And why is HD great or important? Because it is much higher quality. It looks good. As a photographer, I find I appreciate the video a lot more. When I was just editing this tiny little video in the top right-hand corner of my screen, it didn't seem the same as when I shot HD and I could actually play it full screen. And it just looks beautiful. And every frame is like a still photo. It's amazing. So, get an HD camera. And the other good thing about HD video is because you have so many more pixels, you can crop. Remember, if your video is only actually going to be this big in the end, but your HD video is this big, you can crop the snot out of stuff. And there's some videos I'll show you where I crop stuff really, really tight, and you wouldn't know. So again, it's another thing. It opens another world. So, I'm going to show a lot of videos today because we have a lot of time, but also because I can break stuff down and explain like what I did. So again, there's like a standard style to shooting stuff, which is kind of boring. I like to find a different way to tell every story. So some things I'm going to show you, I kind of found a quirky, different way to tell the story, and I think it makes it more interesting. What my kind of rule was to not be like TV. TV news, especially once you learn that TV formula, you kind of realize that it's all the same formula, right? It's the news anchor, giving some intro, talking what happened today. Then there's a 5-second mic shoved in someone's face explaining what happened today. And then it's 10 more seconds of the anchor talking. And then it's like maybe another interview or something, and then it's the reporter at the end talking for 5 seconds, and it's done. There's a kind of like a 30-second clip format, and then like a 60-second clip format. And if you learn the formula, then once you watch TV news, you realize that, wow, they cut that exactly at 5 seconds, and wow, they cut that exactly at 15 seconds. And you realize it's like a formula the way TV news is. Some stuff is cut a little different, a little quirkier, but I advocate that newspaper video or web video needs to be a little different, not that standard kind of TV stuff. Have a different hook or have something that's different about it. That video you wouldn't see on Global or CTV or CBC, right? You would have, today at this school, this happened today. And then they would talk to the one girl for 10 seconds, and then the person would just be narrating over the whole thing. I've only done 2 videos, I guess, where I had to narrate over. And almost everything I shoot, I try to get the people to explain it themselves. And that's just the way I like it. I'm sure some people can do voiceovers themselves better, but I don't really like the, it was sunny today in Chicago. I don't like that kind of anchor voice, so it has its place. But so with this, I shot all of this stuff ahead of time, and then after I found one of the organizers or one of the cheer coaches to get the interview, simply because I didn't get there early. If I'd got there early, I would have tried to find someone to explain the story. Hold on.
Ryan, that one shot that you have where the cheerleaders are leaning forward, the guys are grabbing and they're leaning forward, you have that on video and the still?
Yeah.
At the end there. Did that happen more than once, or was that shot at the same time?
Hold on. I think it's this one.
It's close towards the end, yeah.
The camera's over here and I'm just over here.
No, it's, there's a...
I think it's this.
Yeah.
There. The camera was
So it was right beside you.
The video camera was here, and I was
It's
here.
not going to hear you, I guess.
No, it's so loud. If it was quiet, you would have heard click, 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 but you're not going to hear anything.
You just had it on your
So,
tripod beside you.
yeah, and I mean,
That works pretty well.
yeah, I mean, this has its place. You can't do this for everything.
Yeah.
If you do this too much, it can look cheesy, doing a freeze frame of everything, right? But you know, if it's a strong image, the thing about video versus stills is, especially for sports, think about the sports replays, right? They show the hit, and then they show it again slow-mo, and then again slow-mo, and then again slow-mo. Why do you shoot something slow-mo, or show a video clip in slow motion? So that you can take it in. Whereas a strong still photo, you can just look at it and take it in. I think stuff like sports is best done with stills. So yeah, I like doing both. Again, because I'm for a newspaper, I have to shoot the event and also do the stills. I could have done this just stills. I was sent to do just stills, but I wanted to do video as well. So you know, does this apply for everything? No, but I was there for like 2 hours. I think this was a Saturday or a Sunday. You know, I had the time to do this. It wasn't a busy day. And so I was able to actually be there long enough to get the stills and the video. You know, you don't always have that kind of a time, but as a student you do. So, so I shoot it, you know, got my stills. A lot of my video was just the tripod set up. Again, that doesn't work for everything, but for something like this, it does. And after, find one of the cheer coaches, you know, ask her a few questions, get her to explain it. And I knew throughout it to find, you know, maybe talk to a couple of the girls. The only time you could talk to them was like in between the shows because it was so loud. But just ask, what do you like about cheerleading? Why do you do it? This kind of thing, you know. You don't need it, but it adds to it.
What happens is the top 3 teams in each division from... So,
any other questions about this one? This one is kind of crazy. Like, this is maybe a scary one to start with because there's so much happening. But, you know, I think it shows how it's all just pretty visuals. It's, let's go with this one. I'll show you another one that, this is one of the first ones I ever did, actually. The sound is terrible, the video is really small, and it was shot with that video camera right there, which I almost broke, as you will see at the end. The sound is bad in this with the interview because I didn't know anything about microphones at then, and I was just using the built-in microphone, and because I was 5 feet away from the guy, he's really quiet. Whereas now I would know to use a shotgun mic or a tie clip mic, and then he would sound a lot larger. But this was a feature we were doing on longboarding, and
regular rider for a long time, and it just wasn't conducive to riding in the city. The small wheels and the short wheelbase. Edmonton roads suck. You need a longboard with big wheels to get anywhere.
Well, again, I started out with like a regular skater, and that didn't go too well, and I just found that, yeah, it wasn't practical to commute and everything like that. So I just picked up a longboard and just found that, you know, it was less judgmental as well. Anyone can do it, and it was just a more like diverse sport than I was thinking. I thought that was really cool.
Ed is, I don't know if you remember Ed. Ed was like a pullout magazine inside of the Saturday Journal, and it was like a hip magazine aimed for 18 to 24-year-olds. Only problem is that 18 to 24-year-olds don't buy the newspaper on Saturdays. And so we had the bold idea to move Ed to be online only, which was great, but it was definitely ahead of its time in that there wasn't enough traffic on the website. And because the way the website was set up, Ed was this like special section of the website, but no one really knew it was there. And we got like we had great freelancers, great stories. It was great because it was like our newspaper producing different kind of stories. Stories about longboarding, stories about, we had a sex columnist, we had all of this great content, but it was just aimed at people our age, but no one read it because no one knew it was there. And I shot lots of videos for it and it was fun, but they canned it, and then because it was online only and not getting enough hits and it was a lot of work, we had to cancel it. So maybe someday it'll come back, but it was sad. It was, I guess, not the right time. So, yes, questions are good.
About music on the web, did you guys have to get the rights for it?
I'm friends with those guys,
Okay.
so I knew. I have a lot of band friends, so I just literally sent my friend an email and said, "Hey, can I use this song?" It was a local Saskatoon band, but always for my music, I go to archive.org. Just write that down, archive.org, and search for. It is the great and terrible site, archive.org, and you can go here, and there's tons of stuff. I go down to open source audio and search for whatever you're looking for. And open source means free to use, but you got to read. So let's go here. Usually the way I start is I think to myself, oh, what kind of music do I want? Now before I talk about this, music is a touchy subject. It depends on what it is, whether or not you should use music. Music does influence the emotion of the video. And sometimes it can add emotion to a video, which can be unethical, right? Or it could maybe be the wrong kind of bad music and it's going to wreck the video. It's kind of like one of those artistic approaches. Some people say you should always add video, it's part of your artistic thing to put it in. Others say never use video ever. It's adding something that wasn't there. So it's up to you. It also depends on it. A fun thing about longboarding, I think that music was perfect, whereas something else I may not put that in. So also at first I used music in all my videos. It was a crutch. A video that was kind of boring, and then I added some nice music to it, and it wasn't as boring. That was good for start, but now I never use music in everything because I'm able to make the video good enough that it doesn't need music. So now, how do I start? It's a great thing. It's kind of like anyone can upload their music for free to this, but it's not organized the best. So you go open source audio, and there's one that I'll show you a video I did, and I was like, this video's okay, but it really needs some like upbeat acoustic guitar. And so I searched for upbeat acoustic guitar, and then you just kind of got to look, and sometimes there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So I click on this one. I think this might be it. So you got to click on it and wait for it to load. And then luckily they have a little player here that lets you skip ahead. Before you'd click play and you couldn't fast forward, so you'd actually have to like listen to it for a minute to see if it was good or not. Now you can just click play. Okay, so that's nice. So and then you can download the MP3 of it and stuff. But what's important is Creative Commons license. This is open source, but you got to look, attribution, share alike. That means that you can use it, but you have to attribute. So it's free for you to use, but you have to give credit to the person who made it. Attribution, share alike. That's good. Let's go to this one here. This one, if it just says open source, that means you can do anything. I'm trying to find one here. Open source. Oh, we're actually lucky today. Sometimes it'll say attribution non-commercial. If it says non-commercial, you can't use it. If it's something for your personal use, for you and your friends, that's okay, of course. but you're not allowed to make money off of it, which means you're not allowed to use it for something that you would use for a newspaper or freelance. So anyways, Internet Archive, because it's not the best for searching, you kind of just search for some random words and hope you're going to and you get to listen to like dozens and dozens of songs until you get what you want. It is free, so I guess don't complain, but it's there's a lot of good stuff on here, but it can be frustrating because you can find a great thing and sometimes you'll just like send an email to the person and say, hey, is it okay if I use this? And they'll say yes or no. So, you know, it works. And tons of techno on here, tons of techno. The other thing too is, if you ever want to do a documentary, there's open source movies, and then you can search for old, war, you know, tons of old films from the 1920s, old cartoons that are open source now. So I found out about the site from a documentary filmmaker. They were doing a thing about money or something, and they found all these old 1920s cartoons that related to it. So anyways, Internet Archive. There's other sites too, like just search podcast music, and you could find lots of music that's open source for podcasts and stuff. So, okay. But remember, music is a crutch. So, so we're going to go, before I go through this list, I'm going to show you a boring classroom video. And by boring, I mean it's okay. This video I found a while ago. It's British. It's done by the National Council for the Training of Journalists. And it's kind of cheesy, but pretty much everything I'm going to show you here in the basics, he shows. So I might as well show you the video. And we'll go through it after. Again, this gets kind of cheesy, but it's a pretty good way of learning.
When we talk these days about newspapers and magazines, we mean, of course, so much more than just what the newsstand has to offer. Every major media outlet has moved into the digital age and is using video to tell its stories online. But using video to tell stories requires a new approach, a new way of thinking, a new way of working, and that is what this video is all about. The journalism we leave to you, but here are some ideas about how you can make your video stand out.
Again, this is the basics. This is more of the technical stuff. He doesn't cover the story, the interview.
Before we even switch on the camera, we need to ask ourselves a few questions. First, what's the story? What do I think I'm trying to say? Then what's the structure, the beginning, the middle, and the end? Then what pictures do I think I'll need to tell the story?
The emphasis is on making it simple and straightforward. He invented, of course, but that's not the same as being random. Today's cameras and editing software offer a seductive array of shots and effects, but as in so many things, simple is best. This video has been shot entirely on a standard domestic camera. When it comes to kinds of shot, 3 is all you'll ever need. Wide, a mid-close-up, and a close-up. First, the wide, the general view of where the story is happening, indoors or outdoors. Always try to use a tripod, or at least rest the camera on something. Shaky shots make a piece of amateur. Then there's the mid-close-up, MCU. This is usually the best framing for interviews, but there are a few do's and don'ts. Do use that tripod, unless it's for vox pops, when you want to give the impression that you're just grabbing opinions from people in the street. The viewfinder on most cameras opens to the left, so you tend to stand on that side while filming. That means that if you interview several people, they'll all be looking the same way in the edited piece, looking at you in front. We call this the eye line. It's best to alternate the eye line between different interviewees. Stand on the right of the camera sometimes. And notice how you always set the subject off-center, looking into the frame.
Really, for me, one of the most important things is the fact that
Try to be sure that the camera is at about the same level as your subject's eyes. Just frame them about 2/3 up in the picture like this, and you won't go too far wrong. If the camera is higher than the person you're speaking to, then your subject will look small and insecure. The viewer will be superior. Too low, and the opposite effect occurs. The subject looks bigger, looking down on the viewer.
Position the main subject facing the light source at an angle of 45 degrees. Don't shoot interviews against a bright light. You get this silhouette effect. You shouldn't need to ask more than 3 questions while the camera's running. You'll have done your research before you record, and you'll know roughly what the speaker is going to say. If you want some shots to make editing easier, cutaways as they're sometimes called, you can get a shot of yourself listening. The golden rule here is to imagine a line from your nose to the interviewees, and when you turn the camera on yourself, keep it on the same side of that line. This means that you and your interviewee will appear to be looking at each other. Keep the composition of the 2 shots as similar as you can. You may want to do a piece to camera. Set the shot up as you want it, turn the viewfinder around, set the camera recording, take up your position, and say your piece. Leave a little pause at the top, and again at the end. If you have one, you can use a remote control unit to start the camera recording.
The third kind of shot is the close-up. Use this when you want to feature detail in a piece, or when you want to give the impression of having 2 cameras. For example, if I want to talk about this book, I can cut to a closer shot of the same thing, as long as I'm holding it the same way. Here's the same shot again, with the wrong continuity. For example, if I want to talk about this book.
Suddenly, and as if by magic, my hand has changed sides. As we said, always try to use the tripod, although not at the expense of getting the shot. If you're shooting handheld, try to move closer to frame the shot rather than using the zoom. This will help avoid too much camera shake. There are 3 basic ways to move a shot. First, a zoom. It's a good idea to hold the shot for a few seconds first, then zoom in, not too long, and then hold it again at the end. The same applies to the other 2 kinds of movement. The pan, from side to side. And the vertical equivalent, the tilt. When you edit these shots in, always wait for the camera to settle before you cut away. Restless shots like this, tromboning as we call it, and hose piping, are not easy to watch, and even the shakeliest tripod is steadier than the stillest handheld shot. You really can't go far wrong with a variety of good, stable shots.
Right, good morning everybody. Thanks very much for...
Now a word about sound. It's at least as important as the pictures, and in a noisy place like this, as I was saying, in a noisy place like this, the camera's built-in mic is not up to the job for interviews. Always use a separate microphone for best results, and get the microphone as close to the subject as possible.
Except that our microphone wasn't pointed
Once
at...
you've shot material and you're ready to script and edit, you face the old dilemma. Which comes first, the words or the pictures? Well, it's a trick question. The structure comes first. Once you've decided the order in which your story will unfold, you can write and record a commentary that you know will fit the pictures.
It's the time of year that all lovers are
Compliment them and tell people things they couldn't have known from the pictures alone. With your voice recorded, you can edit the pictures. Even a basic system allows all sorts of fancy effects, but there's really only one you need, the straightforward cut, like this. Just as there's a grammar of language, there's a grammar of pictures. Always try to vary shots in the edit. Never, for example, a wide followed by a wide. 2 moving shots together, or shots cut too short. And finally, a word about graphics, the text on the screen when you name an interviewee. Sometimes it's called the name super. because it's a name superimposed on the screen. Here again, the golden rule is keep it simple. 2 lines is ideal. Name on the top, description on the bottom. Simplify, never abbreviate it.
So there are a few guidelines to help you, but please don't be afraid to be creative. We can't hope to show you in just a few minutes everything about shooting, scripting and editing, but if you follow these guidelines, it'll help you produce video of a good quality and to enjoy doing it.
So kind of, well, it's an instructional video, but I think it's neat. I mean, it has 8 minutes, and that kind of covers, that's the basics. In that, use a tripod, hold it still, get a wide, medium, tight for everything. You know, that's trying to be like a news video, trying to shoot news videos and stuff like that. Don't do a stand-up, but you know, but it. I think that shows quite well the basics. So. We talk about B-roll, you know, get your B-roll for everything. You can never, ever have enough B-roll. 80-20 rule, like, for me, it's like 5-95 rule. Same with sound slides. The more A-roll you get, the more interview you get, the more editing you're going to have to do, because you're going to have to condense time. You know, if the person bangs off the interview in 2 minutes, perfect, then you're good. But they're probably going to talk for like 5 minutes, and you're going to have to cut that down. So try to make your A-roll as concise as possible. But then your B-roll, you know, make sure you have enough, and then you can just keep shooting and get lots and lots. But don't just get a bunch of garbage. Like, think creatively. Get different angles, different shots. The cool thing about video is the more tricks, I'll show some of those in the advanced things. There's some little tricks you can do that can make things a little more visually interesting. So, and with your B-roll, 10 seconds for everything. So you find an interesting thing, hold it steady for 10 seconds. Don't count to 10, like actually look at the 10 seconds on your thing, because otherwise you'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So hold it for 10, and then go to the next shot. Or if you're doing the wide, medium, tight, wide for 10 seconds, zoom in, zoom in. Other reason, I don't have this on the list, and I should, is handles and head start. If you're shooting to tape, when you hit record, it takes about a second for your heads to start spinning up and the tapes to start moving. So when you hit record, if the person starts speaking immediately, you're going to miss the first couple seconds of what they're saying. So hit record, wait 3 or 4 seconds, and then start recording. Another reason why that 10 seconds for each B-roll is important, because of that 10 seconds, it may actually only record 8 or 7 seconds. So yeah, that's an important thing to know. And the other reason you want to have a few extra seconds is because you need what's called handles. If you're blending shots together, like what's called like a crossfade, when you have one clip kind of fading into the next. Well, when they blend together, they're kind of overlapping a bit, right? And so if you're overlapping by a second, well, then you're using a second of this clip and a second of this clip. So you're now, again, that 10 seconds is being shortened even more. So you want to have, you know, don't just hit the button, count to 3, and hit it again. Hit the button, count to 3, hit it again. You're going to get really mad once you start editing. And you'll learn this, like when you edit a lot, you learn. The great thing about editing your own work is that you learn from your mistakes very fast. So let's show some stuff here. Any questions so far? Yes.
I know how you did it.
Greg!
Well, no, I mean, they might get it. I know how you did the longboard, but maybe you could explain how you shot that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And maybe everybody here knows.
For this, I got a shot of them going by. And then this is the interview with the reporter. While he did the interview with the reporter, I like got down low with my wide-angle lens and videoed him talking. And then I said, and then they had 2 longboards, right? So I'm sitting on one longboard, and the other guy's pushing me, and then we're just following. And you don't hear the audio from the video. It's just me yelling, faster, faster, slower, faster, keep going. And then I'm like, please turn green, and then they're like, oh, and then we keep going, and we hit a puddle, and then I say, please don't break. Because this is like my first week or second week at the Journal, so I was like, don't break. Not on my first day.
So he actually wasn't kidding.
Yeah, don't break. So that was just a fun video. And again, because it was for Ed, it was okay to be fun like that. So I don't know if you do that for like a news video, but it was a fun thing. Maybe I'll wait till he gets back. I'll show another video. Are any of you planning on doing a video or something similar to video for your project? Yes, no? Are you interested in video at all? Just say yes.
Yes.
All right, good.
It is definitely something that we have to think about as photographers, though.
Yeah.
There's people at our paper that don't really want to do this, and they're turning into dinosaurs. Because they have to. You just want to make a choice. I think it's going to, like Ryan says, it's going to be more, and it's going to happen more and more in other photography too, not just newspaper photography. But whether it's wedding photography, or I can see commercial photographers having to shoot video too. In fact, I talked to some that are looking at it. So it's not just us, like it's not just newspaper photographers that have to sort of make this change. And I guess, as Ryan's saying, maybe you're not really keen on it, but you should start to look at it, because it's definitely our future, and it's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And even like if you, especially at this point right now, like at this year, it's the kind of thing that will get you in the door. Like I'm sure a lot of people have got jobs lately because they had video in the resume, but then they haven't actually shot video yet. Like I can name a few photographers who've got jobs because they had multimedia but haven't actually done that much. So it's the kind of, I mean, last summer when we hired our photo intern, we basically looked at all the portfolios. Which ones have multimedia? Okay, so we narrowed it down to them. And then I remember when we looked through the portfolio, we looked at the multimedia. There's 10 of us gathered around the screen. The audio was playing out of the little tiny speaker in the front of in front of the G5, like you couldn't even hear it. And there was 10 of us who were talking, so we couldn't even hear what the audio was. I don't even think we watched the whole thing through. We just kind of like, okay, good, they could do video. Now let's look at the stills. It was more about, like, we didn't judge. I'm sure if we had to narrow it down more, we would have judged the video, but it was actually more about the fact that, are you able to do this? Are you, the video looked good, but it was more about, that's what got her through the door. That was last year. This year, especially for any bigger place, they're going to watch your multimedia pieces, and it's going to matter a lot more. So, and like I said, it makes you more marketable. So, so I'm going to show one more video, and then we'll do. I'll show some of these things. So, okay. Okay, this is more we did for Ed. Now we're down to 3. Thanks for coming, Greg. So this is another thing we did for Ed. We don't do this anymore, but it was kind of fun. This is a freelancer who was very smart and started an ongoing series on volunteerism. So every month he would volunteer at a new place, and then I would do a video about his volunteer experience. And it was neat because then you could kind of learn what it was like to volunteer at these places. And also a great thing about coming up with your own ongoing series as a freelancer is you're guaranteed at least one job a month. So this is one that was just, I think, heartwarming. It was elder care. So he volunteered for elder care, where you spend the afternoon helping old people dance and play cards. And so pay attention to the interview. There's like 1 interview, 2 if you count him. She's looking into the screen. That's one thing. I'm going to go through this more, but interview always looking into the screen, and lots of B-roll and a few cute moments.
Hi, I'm Jason Halbauer. This is part of our ongoing volunteer series. I'm here at Elder Care Edmonton, and I'm going to be socializing with some seniors. So, let's go.
We provide day programs for seniors. We actually have two locations. One is for seniors with Alzheimer's and dementia. The other, this program, is for the frail elderly, so seniors who are living in their own homes, and they come to us for the day for physical, cognitive, and primarily socialization. So it's a recreational day support program. It's important because seniors who are at home, well, anybody who's at home who's isolated are at risk for institutionalization, so placement in long-term care or other facilities. So our purpose is to keep seniors in their own home independent as long as possible. So by coming out once a week, twice a week to our program and being engaged and meeting others, it keeps them in their own homes as long as possible. We play cards, we do puzzles, we made Valentine's Day cards today. Then we do exercise every day, fun and fit, which is usually chair exercises. We have lunch. This afternoon was a bit different because it's our Valentine's Day party, so we had entertainment. Again, lots of dancing, lots of laughing. Other days we'll do anything from hockey, bowling, soccer, trivia games, crossword puzzles. So we try to use the mind and the body.
Excellent. I took German in high school.
We're going to do the chicken dance. Come on, get up. Get up. I love that. Come on,
My morning at Elder Care went by very quickly. I had a lot of fun, met some very interesting people, heard some great stories, and we talk about the benefits of volunteering. The benefit today is definitely a big smile on my face.
The video could have been a minute shorter, but I love the chicken dance. So I actually, you can kind of tell it was a point where it could have ended, and then the chicken dance started, and then it just keeps going. And I could have quit it there, but I'm like, oh, I just love chicken dance. So it was so cute. Again, that was something that was easy to shoot because there was lots of visuals. You know, it was a cute story and just tons of cute people smiling, and you know, so. But also, it's a story, you know. Did you know there was this elder care kind of thing that you could volunteer with old people and play cards, and it's in a relaxed, comfortable atmosphere? So, going through this one. And do you like this? Showing a video and then explaining it? Okay. I could show you a lot of other people's much better videos, but then I can't tell you the anecdotes and such. Where's my bottom? Oh, there, okay. So, one thing, next time I'm here, we're going to talk about editing, so I'll go through a lot of other things. There's a lot of things, rules. Your first 10, 15 seconds of your video is the most important thing. It's because that's what makes the person decide whether or not they're going to watch it. So your first 10 seconds, don't start with a headshot unless it's like Brad Pitt talking, because it's got to be, if you start with a headshot right there, it's kind of, but if you start with like, boom, the action, so a lot of my videos now, I'll put the very, very best part, the peak moment, or the best, funniest quote, I'll put that first, just because then you get an idea. You can smell the video and you know what to expect. So always, so you got to think that way. One thing when I first started shooting is all my videos were in chronological order. Same with all my sound slides. I think I said this last time, were in chronological order. And now I'm more, and that's just because I'm like, well, it's the way I shot it, it's the way it happened, that's the way you should present it. But you should actually present things in the way that tells the story the best and that is the most interesting, or else people won't watch it. So. You know, so welcome and music and, you know, keywords too. There's a lot of things we'll talk about next time. You know, say it and then show it. The frail and elderly, so I show the walkers. You know, there's certain keywords. When you do your interview, it's often good to do your interview first as opposed to last, because if you do it last, they're going to say something and you go, oh, I need a shot of that. So if you do the interview first, then you can kind of, or in the middle, then at least you'll know that, you know, when she says something like puzzles, that we do puzzles, then I know, oh, I better run in the back and get a shot of some of those puzzles. Okay, so let's switch this up now. Input. Oh, I should change this.
What do you want to do?
I'm just going to turn on the video camera. Is the other guy going to be gone for like 10 minutes? Or?
He's going to be gone for 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay, I'll go through this then. Sure, we'll do this.
Sorry, you're going to turn on.
I'm just going to turn this off for a second.
Oh, you can do it with the remote, I think. But you know what? It takes a while for it to cool down.
Well, it's okay.
You can just go like this, though, here. And,
actually, I guess I could write on the board beside it.
well, we can turn it off.
Well, you know what? Then actually, no, turn it back on.
You want it on?
Turn it on.
Okay. Actually, now, wait, take a second.
And I'll put this to video 2.
Yeah, it does take a second to come back on now.
Always.
Yeah. That needs to cool, or how that works.
Everyone knows the chicken dance song, right? Do you guys ever watch the show Mythbusters?
Yes.
Do you know I watched an episode a while ago, they had winter myths. One of their myths was, will your tongue stick to a frozen pole? That was a myth. And I was like, what? How can that be a myth? But I realized a lot of people live in warm climates and have never had a cold pole to lick.
I've seen that happen, so it's not a myth.
I've done it. I mean, who didn't do that when they were a kid, right? But I thought it was funny. I'm like, really? This is a myth? But you know how they did it? They got like a horse tongue, and then they like put a tube in it and was running warm water through it so that the tongue got up to like 90 degrees or 88 degrees, and then they got like a frozen pipe, and then they like stuck it. Oh, and it froze. And I'm like, really? Who doesn't know that? But sometimes you remember things. A lot of people don't know the chicken dance. So, you know, some simple little things that really matter are, and we'll go to the Shooting Better Video guide. Where did I get this? I should probably credit this. There's this, I don't even know where. It's some town in the States. They have like a community television station, kind of like, I don't know, Access Television or whatever. So it's a community thing where like anyone can rent out a video camera or sign out a video camera and shoot stories for the community. So on their website, they have all of their training resources for how to shoot video. And it's for shooting TV video, but all the rules still apply. So they have like dozens of PDF files, which I just took off their site. They're free for anyone to download. And one of them was this great little 4 pages of shooting better videos. So, you know, look space, the headroom. This is so important.
Back up there,
video shooting tips. Wait for it. T. There, that one. Might as well bring this up. Come on. So, you know, like the look space, the headroom. Just always have the person looking in, you know, whenever you're interviewing them. If they're looking out of the screen, if they're kind of framed weird, it's going to look bad. It's not the end of the world. I've done videos, you know, where I'm holding the camera like this, looking up their nose. It's because that was the most convenient. I mean, you have to juggle. If you're carrying a camera and this at the same time, you can't do everything perfect, but you got to try it. You got to know the rules. You know, this is a rule that can be broken. The thing is, it's a portrait. I say that here in the guide. You know, ask yourself, would this make an interesting portrait, or is this the side of someone's head focused on the background? So having you could do it, posed a little different, maybe looking out of the frame. But if it's an interesting pose, then it works. But for typically 90% of the time, this is the thing you want. Now, one important thing, and this is kind of something a little more advanced. You don't worry about this, but it's good to know. The 180-degree rule. What the 180-degree rule is, this is your line of interaction. This is what you are looking at each other. Your eyes are on each other like this. So your camera has to be, if your camera's to your right, like this, and your camera is focused on them, if you move that camera to get a different angle, don't cross this line. So your camera can be, here, or it could be here, or it could be, even back here, but you don't want it to be on the other side. And the reason is, and this is best illustrated, can we turn that on?
Yeah, it should go on, it just hit the on button now.
On here?
Yeah.
Now we have to wait for it to warm up. But
yeah, just take a second for it.
Now you're all in wondering why? Because I didn't really understand this until I actually shot it. Oh. Two, one. Input. Come on. There we go. Can I get a volunteer? You there. Come up. The reason we do this is because... Oh, you turn the light off, please? Thanks.
You should just want the back lights on.
Yeah. Okay. Or turn off both, I guess.
Would that give me enough?
Sure. Just turn on the back lights.
Okay. Sure.
Does that work? Hey, that works. Okay. All right. So... right now, which way are you looking? Like on the screen. You're looking to the left, okay? And if I move my camera over here to get both of us, you're looking to the left, okay? If I put the camera behind you to get that shot of me doing the nod, I'm looking to the right, which looks correct because we're not looking up, we're looking opposite each other, right? Now, so here you are looking to the bottom left. Now let's say I want to get another shot of you, a close-up of you, okay? Well, if I get that close-up of you, again, it has to be on this side. You're looking to the left. If I were to move the camera over here and get that close-up of you, well, now you're looking to the right. So that can be jarring, right? We're wide, you're looking to the left. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're looking to the left, to the right. And then back to the left. It's one of those things that, this is just a very simple rule that just keep in the back of your head. Just keep the camera, look, here's a line, don't cross that line if you're getting different angles. Again, 90% of the time, it's just standard like this. You're not moving, you're not doing anything, right? But if you want to try and get those different angles, don't cross that line because now all of a sudden you're looking the other way.
Do you want to see it too? I could view the so-called model.
Sure. So, okay, here we're wide. And Greg's looking left, okay? If all of a sudden I flip, where are you? All of a sudden, if I'm zoomed in, now he's looking to the right, see? And again, if I'm getting that nod shot, but I moved it to the other way, again here, look, he's looking to the left, okay? If the camera is now over here looking at me. No, you're still there. I'm saying I'm getting that back shot. You don't need to do that. I've done this like once ever. But if you were getting that back shot and it was on the wrong side, well, now I'm looking to the left and it looks weird. It's one of those things you don't notice, but subconsciously if all of a sudden the person's looking the wrong way, it makes you think, hey, that's not right. And remember what I said before? Your video should be good enough that the viewer doesn't notice or care how it was shot, right? They don't think, if a video is shaky, they're going to think, oh, the photographer needs to hold it still. If the sound is bad, they're going to think, oh, that's bad sound. But if it's still video and good sound, then all they're going to think about is the subject, the video, the story. When you have, remember I said, everything's trying to fail. If one of those little things go wrong, it jars, that makes the person think, oh, that's not good. So a little tiny rule like that. Again, this is a little more advanced rule, but it's come in handy. And one time I was shooting a really big, important interview, and I forgot that rule, and luckily I was able to correct it quickly. Sometimes, and I've noticed this, sometimes on TV, they'll, when they're trying to match footage or something, they'll actually just flip the video so that the person's looking the other way. And I've noticed this a couple times sometimes, and they'll do it, and they'll just do it just for like a 1 second clip or something, right? But if you're paying attention, you'll go, hey, wasn't his lapel, on the other side? They'll do it.
They screwed up then, and they try to fix it.
They fix it by flipping, and that's kind of like in TV they'll do that. They have their own set of ethics. I wouldn't do that, but why did they do that? Because I think maybe they think that flipping the video is a little less of is a little white lie versus all of a sudden the person looking the other way. So other thing is cutaways. If you're doing an interview with someone, try not to have the talking head the entire time. Get something, get their hands, zoom in on their name tag. If they're wearing a poppy, get the poppy. Get something else. And what you can do is there's your throwaway questions. You ask someone to spell their name first. The first thing I always do is, can you give me your name and your title? And then, maybe ask just a simple question like, oh, how's your day going? How's this going? Just kind of those throwaway questions that don't matter, just so that they're kind of relaxed and open a bit. Also, during that time, you can be fiddling with your camera, making sure it's in focus, making sure it's okay, and then you can start with the big important questions. So, okay, 3-6 wide, 3-6-9. So, again, for everything that you shoot, you want to shoot it wide, medium, and tight. Whoa. And you want to use a tripod because this is where you should get. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my tripod up. I brought one for that camera, but it's such a simple rule. But if you shoot everything that you shoot, no matter how boring it is, if you shoot it wide, medium, tight for everything, you've now tripled your B-roll footage, and it looks visually interesting if you're giving wide scene, tighter, a little tighter for everything. Then and also if you're shooting a person interview with someone, you can go wide, medium, tight, and then and then tight again on their hands, and then tight again on something else, on your pen. And now I've created 4 or 5 different angles, as opposed to just the standard like that the whole time. So another thing you can do kind of to make your interviews more boring. Again, most of your videos you have some sort of an interview, some kind of a thing. I'm just giving you tips on how to make your interviews a little more interesting, and I'll show you an example in a second. Again, here I'm using a big pro camera. A lot of these videos, the only reason I'm not using this little thing is because I have this adapter on it, and if I had a 35mm lens, it would be weird. So, video quality-wise, these two cameras are the same. They're both HD. They're about the same. Funny thing, the color on this little camera is way better than on this camera. I wish, this camera, I love. It's a great little camera. What you get with a big pro camera is just, it's focusing. I actually turn a ring as opposed to hitting a button. I have way more access to manual stuff. But, don't run out and get one of these cameras at first, because you won't use, all you'll do is have a big expensive pro camera with tons of manual features that you'll have on auto all the time because you won't know how to use it, right? So it's amazing what you can get with a small camera. And the great thing about a small camera is it's small, it's light. I'm going to show you some videos with interviews, and the video's kind of a little wobbly. I just found on eBay last night this bracket. The problem with this camera is, you know the big news, like the TV news guys, they're the big beta cams, and they're like huge, right? And they sit on their shoulders. Problem with this camera is that it doesn't, if it sits on the shoulder, then I'm like this. And then I can't see the viewfinder. So all of my interviews, I'm like this. And this thing, if I have a wide angle lens on it, gets kind of heavy. And you can see a lot of my videos kind of get a little wobbly. I'm buying a bracket that kind of comes out to here. I think that would be a good investment, because something like this is so hard to hold steady versus a little camera like this weighs like a pound. Holding it steady is easy. Another great tip is, if you're holding, always use a tripod. I'm saying that you won't always use a tripod. A lot of my stuff I'm not using a tripod, but my best looking stuff is with a tripod. Again, sometimes it's not practical to carry a tripod with you. A monopod can work great, but a monopod still kind of wobbles to the left and to the right. It's not the same. But if you are going to hold a video camera, don't hold it like this unless you're having to do an interview with someone. Because holding it like this, it can still wobble. Best way to hold a camera is like this, because kind of posed like this, because it's balanced more, and you have two arms, more strength, and you can hold it way steadier. Also, if you need to hold it really steady, you can hold it like this against your chest or against your stomach. And you can actually get very, very steady shots like this. Not as good as a tripod, but a lot better than this. Other thing with the 369, or the wide, medium, tight, is only zoom in tight if you have a tripod. If I have to zoom in like this thing has an optical image stabilizer, but I could still not hold it that tight, that steady, right? I hold my breath, I still can't hold it, right? So the best thing too, instead, is wide, leave your zoom on wide, move in like that, and if I had enough cord, I'd move in all the way. It's actually much better video to go like wide, in a bit tighter, in really tight. It's easier to hold it steady, because if I did this, whoa, tight, I can't hold it as steady as going in like that. So use your feet, let your feet be the zoom. Same with photography. It's the exact same thing as photography. So let your feet be the zoom. And sequence. Sequence is, I guess, showing a sequence of something. So rather than a whole bunch of random video clips of random things happening, and a lot of my videos have that, I know, but actually showing a sequence of something. So someone, well, as I say, you know, person picks up the gun, puts the bullet in the gun, aims the gun, shoots the gun, the bullet hole. Actually show a sequence of events. Person walking down a hallway, have them walking down the hallway wide, get tight on them, show their feet, show them go past you, show them walking away. A sequence, as opposed to just the whole way through. Not only is it more visually interesting because you're showing multiple angles, but it also cuts it down. It might take them 10 seconds to walk down that hallway, but you could do, or say 20 seconds to walk down that hallway. But instead you could go 3 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds, kind of, or 2 seconds, 2 seconds. You can condense time a lot better, and it's more interesting. So, any questions? Do you like this? This work? I know I don't have a tripod. I didn't bring a tripod to teach a lesson. Oh, manual white balance. Same as with your still camera. You know, you can shoot raw with your still camera and correct the color a lot easier and stuff. Video, it is, if you're using a professional program like Final Cut Pro, it is surprisingly easy to fix the color, but you have to fix the color for every single clip. And if you have 50 clips and they're all different colors, you're going to have to spend a lot of time color correcting every single clip. Whereas if you just used a manual white balance, it would be fine. And all cameras have a manual white balance setting. It's either in the menu or something. You know, find something white and set your white balance. And now the color is correct. But once I leave the room, once I go into another room, the color is going to be all off again. So you have to reset it. Every room you go in, every scene you go in, set your white balance. It just saves you a lot of time. It sucks having to do it, but it's a lot better than having green video when you get back, especially if you're mixing B-roll, right? If you have your interview with your person and then you're going back to B-roll, well, if your interview's all green and then your B-roll's all tungsten, it's going to look bad. So you got to spend so much time color correcting. And if you're using just a simple program like iMovie or something, you're not going to be able to color correct it easily or at all. So, I guess one last thing. This has a bunch more manual controls. I'm not going to get into those, but just a very important thing. Most cameras have this: the backlight tool or backlight button. That's so that if you're focused on someone and the light behind them is brighter, they're going to be a silhouette, right? So if you hit the backlighting button, it opens up the iris and lets more light in and makes the background go blow out and they're brighter. So I wish I had that button on here. Instead, I have a thing called manual control. But one thing I like with this is if the person's backlit, I just quickly hit the button and it automatically fixes it. With this camera, if they're backlit, can I make someone backlit? You're kind of... I guess I could do you.
Turn the light off.
No, that's okay. Just leave it on. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay.
It's pretty harsh.
Actually, that's good. So yeah, like on my other camera, if it was like this, I would just hit the backlight button and it would automatically make you brighter. That's all. But for me, I have to go exposure. I'm already opened this up. I've got to like drop my shutter down. Right? So that's what the backlight button would do. Whereas auto exposure wants to do this. So lights, please. Any questions with that?
Is this a good time to take a break, Brian?
In a second, maybe. So talked about that. I guess because I don't explain them much. You know when you're using a 200 f2.8 lens and you zoom in on someone and the background goes all nice and soft? You know what I'm talking about? Versus everything being in focus. It's called bokeh, that beautiful faded out background. Video cameras, it's very hard to get bokeh because of the optics, right? Think of how huge your lens is on your 35mm camera, whereas these cameras have very tiny lenses and short focal lengths. Therefore, it's like what is the? I think it's like a 4 to 9mm lens on this. So it's the equivalent focal length of like a fisheye lens. So little cameras or little point and shoot cameras, they have tons of depth of field, right? Usually you take a picture with a point and shoot camera and everything is in focus. It's because that lens is so small versus a big 300-2.8 is a huge lens, longer focal length, so it has a narrower depth of field. Point is, because these cameras have such small lenses, even this is a pretty small lens, and a small sensor, they have tons of depth of field. So it's very hard to get that nice blurred out background look that with 35mm cameras, you can focus someone, the background goes all soft. So the one kind of only trick you can do to get a blurred out background is to either build an adapter like this, which don't do, or buy like a huge, $400,000 cinema camera, obviously not practical. The other thing too is to just zoom in. Remember your depth of field is relative to your how close you are to the subject, your focal length, and your f-stop. So if I get close to someone and zoom in all the way with a long focal length, then the background will go soft. It's not the same.
But then you want to have it on a tripod.
Yeah, for sure. So if I do this, there, see Greg is out of focus. So, can you turn that this light off? Yeah. So you can, if I'm wide, like this, see everyone's in focus. If I'm wide like this, everyone's in focus. But if I use my long zoom, then Greg goes soft. So that's kind of a thing you can do if you want to kind of have a nicer, more cinematic effect. Shoot everything with long lenses. Obviously, that's not practical, but that is a little trick you can do to get the blurred out background. It's hard with small cameras, but you can if you just have to shoot everything zoomed in all the way. Another little trick, this is something you have to do with the tripod, is called rack focus. And rack focus, you have to be on manual. Again, these are advanced things. I'm just showing this just so you know. It's something to play with. Rack focus is where I focus on Greg, and then I slowly pull my focus to you. So it's probably best illustrated with, I guess, this. Oh, God. Where is it? Okay, here we go. So I'm focused on you, and then I'm focused on that. See how I'm bouncing back and forth? That's called pull focus or rack focus. And that's kind of just a little thing you can do. It's a little tiny video trick where you're focused on that, and then you pull into this. It's just a little, you have to be on a tripod or else it looks like garbage. And you have to be in manual focus mode. But it's a neat effect. This obviously isn't the most interesting thing. I'll show you ones that are. But it's just called rack focus. And it's something you don't do all the time, but that's a little tiny video trick.
Can you do it with the HP20?
Oh, yeah. You just put it in manual mode, and you got to turn the little dial. Okay, we'll go for a break in a second. I just want to... Okay, just to reiterate, don't hold your camera steady. Don't move. Don't pan. Don't tilt. Don't zoom. Don't do those things until you are good enough that you can do them right. Just starting off, everyone wants to zoom in and zoom out and pan, and it looks like garbage because they're not doing it right. So, and surprisingly, it can be a lot more interesting to hold your camera steady and let the subject move in and out of the frame. It's actually way more interesting than just following. Because think about it, if you're following a person like this, what is that? This person is a still image. You're not really giving life. That's not video. This person, your video is about movement and stuff, right? If I'm just doing this, well, that's just a still photo with a bunch of stuff blurring in the background, right? Versus if I hold still and the subject moves, well, that's interesting. You're actually showing movement. And that's something very simple. Everyone at first wants to follow the person everywhere. Hold still. Not only is it less shaky, because it's hard to to pan properly, but it's easy. You can just hold it like this, or put it on the ground, or butt it up against something, or use a tripod, and just let your subject move, and you can make much more interesting video. And don't zoom. Like, the purpose of zoom, if you're on a tripod and it's a nature, anyone here see Planet Earth, the BBC's Planet Earth? Amazing. You only use it if it's like Planet Earth and you're zoomed in on you're not a billy goat, but a billy goat, and then you slowly pull out to give perspective of the entire mountain, right? That's what zoom is for. Or, you're pouring out your heart and you're telling your story, and the videographer slowly pulls in as you get sadder and sadder and deeper into your emotion, right? Those are the only two times. But who does that? Professional videographers who've been doing this for 20 years who know. I'm always amazed when I'm watching a documentary and the person starts to get a little emotional and they slowly start pulling it in. And I'm like, how did the guy know to do that? Because if I did it, I'd be pulling in on the wrong part. Or I'd ruin it. Or I'd be too tight and then the person would start like using hand movements and I'd have to pull out quick. So yeah, that's something you do like when you're pro. don't do it at first. So yeah, don't zoom, don't pan, don't tilt until you know what you're doing. And leave your exposure and everything on auto for starters. And just know how to use the backlight button. Okay, let's go for a break. And I want to show you way more examples. We talked about different things, you know, the 369 or wide, medium, tight for everything. And B-roll. So I'm going to show you another video. This one is, again, another thing that was interesting visually, so you couldn't go wrong with shooting it. But you need to have, it's a burlesque video or burlesque kind of group, but it's really just them on stage doing a bunch of things. So you got to get lots of different angles, get their feet, get their hands, get tight on their faces. Also, I interviewed 2 people. And the first person, the interview is just standard, just her, medium shot, looking into the frame. The second interview, notice that I ask her 3 separate questions, and each one is composed different. The first one's a little wider, the next one's medium, and the next one's tight. And the reason I do that is to kind of make it a little more interesting. So again, this is a little more advanced, but when you're interviewing your person, once you get more comfortable with it, try to change your shots a little for each question. So, or maybe ask a couple questions wide, and then say, oh, just hold on a second, or ask a nothing question. How are you doing today? And then recompose your camera, zoom in a little closer, and then ask your next question. That makes it so that maybe if you don't have enough B-roll, at least you can maybe keep your A-roll a little more interesting by changing angles. So again, don't cross that line, but right, so. Music for this was just the music that was playing there. They had a CD player going, and I recorded it. I think that's fair use. I don't know. I'm not worried about that. There's a thing like if the music was playing there, it's okay to use, but only if you're using part of it. You know. Where's my sound? Oh, hold on. I'm gonna change this. Sort input. No, I'm good.
It went awesome
The group is Capital City Burlesque. We are on our 4th year of being together. We started out in 2004. We had an amazing success rate with our first show. We had awesome feedback, and then the neo-burlesque scene has been rolling in the States and throughout Canada for the last few years. So lots of girls have called us, lots of girls approached us to be interested. The last round of girls that we all got from an open audition. We just kind of posted it on the internet, and a bunch of girls showed up and we auditioned them. It's theatrical, it's more than just panties. Burlesque can be interpreted many ways. A lot of it's theatrical, a lot of it's comedy, but my version is more, you know, like tongue-in-cheek, cutesy, big group numbers with lots of feathers and sparkles and awesomeness.
About 2 Halloweens ago, I saw the Burlesque Halloween show here, and I thought this is what I've been looking for forever. So I just asked him after the show. I sent him a couple emails, and you know, a month later I was in the group. We were going to Vancouver to the Burlesque Festival, and it was an amazing experience. So I've been with him ever since. I've always been into, you know, the striptease and the pin-up girl image, and I always thought it was just beautiful and empowering to women. So and it's a lot of fun to put together. I think that we're going to do really well. I'd like to see us take it to some actual festivals and some actual competitions. I define it as just pure fun, really. Like, I mean, you're doing it for yourself, you're not doing it for anybody else. Who cares what you look like? You feel wonderful when you're doing it. And I mean, you get to glitter up, glam up, feather up, whatever you want to do, and shake your stuff, whereas you never really have that opportunity to show it before. I think that it's empowering because when you're on stage, everyone is looking at you, and it's the most powerful thing, especially when you're almost naked, to be able to have that power over everybody in the room. Every woman should be able to feel that.
So a few things with that. One, notice how I changed my view. I asked her 3 questions and posed her in 3 different ways. Also, she kind of became my character, right? I had a person to explain the story, Lily Von Doom, and then I picked a character and got to her explain. But then, towards the end, as she's talking about it, more about her, getting a little more personal, then I start showing clips of just her. So, kind of only the last 30 seconds as a character. But a good way, same with stories, with written stories, sometimes they'll find a character or a person there, It's good to find a character in your video. Just starting out, get someone to explain what's happening and show what's happening. A little better is someone to explain what's happening, showing what's happening, and a character. So, again, lots of different shots, just, showing, just their legs, just their feet, just them walking by, showing them makeup. They talk about it, and then I show it. Lighting for this, it was stage lighting. See here, all I did was I just took these stage lights, and I just turned them around, because it was really dark there. And I could either have all the lights on or none of the lights. So I just put these lights on. And you just end with that nice little emotional thing and the smile. Aww. And it ends. So
You chose to not use any still images.
No still. That was video only. That was for Ed, and because Ed was online only, it didn't need a still. Maybe if we did need a still to maybe throw to it in the paper, because I was shooting HD, I could do a frame grab. Maybe I was lazy with this. Now, pretty much anything I shoot, I'll always get a still. In fact, I got burnt. I spent a lot of time last week shooting and editing a video. A tour of the Alberta legislature, which was kind of boring, but I kind of found a way to make it a little more interesting. Put a lot of time into it, and I was kind of told that it was just going to be web only, so I figured they just needed like one little still to key to it in the paper. It wouldn't be a big deal. But then come Monday, they have a story meeting. Oh, I think it was going to be like B1, like they were going to play the story big, but I get a call at like 3 o'clock, and it's like, where are your stills? They want stills for this. And so I'm like, well, I didn't have stills. So I had to pull off frame grabs, and they were only, maybe about, you can only run them about 6 inches. And so instead it was like buried on like B8 or something really small, and it could have been big because I didn't have the stills. So, that was my fault. I always get stills with everything. And I'm always there for the paper first. Unless I'm there, I'm very rarely there with another photographer. I'm usually, when I'm doing this, I'm doing both, but I have time. Again, I'm kind of a different position at the paper. I'm kind of half in the photo department, half in the online department. So I typically try to take things that take a little more time, or that might take a little more time. So yeah, lots of tons of B-roll, and try to change your interview up a little bit. Again, only do it once you get comfortable, but it can make the interview a little more interesting. Okay, with cheerleading, remember I was all about the cheerleading. I just set it up on tripod and let it run. Some things lend themselves to that, like sports. So here's one. Sitting volleyball. Majority of this video was I just set the camera up, let it record, and I kept moving. I would let it record like this for 5 minutes, and then I would point it the other way for 5 minutes, and then I'd go up high and let it go for 5 minutes. And while it was going, I'd be taking stills. And so this is the sitting volleyball team. They're all either paraplegic, or basically they can't lift their bum off the ground while playing the ball. So these people are either can't use their legs. Some of them can't use their arms, but their legs work. But you have to have something not working, and your butt can't leave the ground.
I would say it's what with everything left. This sport, it's called sitting volleyball. Obviously we play it sitting. The court is 10 meters by 6 meters, so 6 by 5 on each side. And it's a Paralympic sport. And the rest is the same thing as volleyball, as regular volleyball. Same rules. Exception-wise, we cannot lift our buttocks, bottom from the ground. So if we try to raise, it's an error. We always have to keep something, well, around the waist. I can be on my back or on my stomach to play a ball, but not raise myself to play a ball.
Besides the smaller court and the net height, the rules are pretty much the same. There's a few odd front row blocking rules, but that's only for a few times during the game. And besides that, they're actually pretty similar. It's all just, well, keeping your hands on the ground and just being able to move your body around. I was born at this since birth, so I know how to move on the court and the floor since I started playing. So yeah, I'm good at that. But all these guys before, are used to standing up, so I think I get used to moving around and just getting their body on the floor and just playing it up. So
I've been playing on the standing national team since '94. We've had great success after 2000 in Sydney, and we're on top of the world. And then when they removed the standing team out of it, I stayed with it, but it's dying down, and Canada needed to make a sitting team, and for my love for volleyball, I figured I'd stick around and help them out and trying to give my leadership. I'm one of the oldest guys on the team, and I'm just here for support and showing the guys how to use their heart and work to win.
So they joined because they like sports. Most of them already played volleyball in their high school or even some in college, and they love volleyball and they want to continue playing volleyball at another level, which is the international level, which is pretty fun.
So that, I shot that more like a photo story, right? There were a lot of stills in that. The majority of my video was just the camera sitting on a tripod, recorded like an hour of tape, and then when I edited it, I just kind of like, there's a good clip, there's a good clip. So that's the way I shot that. Oh, and then in my interviews, of course, after, hey, can I do my interview? Of course, the guy with no legs is down on the ground, so I get down on the ground with him. And it was a neat story. So again, get the guy to explain. His accent, it's difficult. Sometimes you'll talk to someone who will have an accent and you'll go, oh no. But you know, he was the coach, he was the guy to talk. Yeah, the video was pretty easy to shoot. And you know, while it was recording, I was doing the stills because I wanted to make powerful stills. And a lot of these, like that, you know, that's a still image. Wait for it. That could be a still. Interview is pretty easy. Just move. You know, I had the camera pointed that way, had the camera pointed that way, had the camera pointed this way. You know, let it run for 5 minutes each way. Find a character, have him talk, and then show clips of just him. Have another character, have shots of just him. And then, you know, at the end, try to have something symbolic of the end or whatever, everyone shaking hands. And then to end it, you know, have him hopping off into the sunset. It's a...
So how did you choose those guys, Ryan? So your character, did you...
They were just the coaches. Oh, well, I chose the guy with no legs just because he was like the most like, wow, and I mean, he said like, other people had done stories on him before. He was really interesting, and he lived out of town.
So as you were shooting, you started deciding?
Yeah, you kind of point out, okay, I got to talk to that guy. Yeah. And then after you kind of notice, like, kind of pick out, okay, well, who's the coach? Well, I could tell who the two coaches were because I haven't called him coach. So then I after you want to kind of say, hey, you know, who's the organizer? Who's the person in charge? Just so you kind of get someone with authority to kind of explain, or who knows what's going on to explain. Oh, yeah. Okay, actually, I think that's actually... good. Was that my next thing? What's 3? Oh, I don't have a 3. Well, it looks like Canadian Idol. Okay, let's go Canadian Idol. These ones have a different narrative. There's your standard TV news format, which I'm not going to even show you. And that is, you know, the 10-second intro, 20-second SOT, which is sound on tape. And that's some person explaining, giving a little summation of what happened. And then there's like 10 seconds of showing something happening, and then 10 more seconds of someone explaining, and then the stand-up, the standard thing, right? I like finding different ways to tell the story. So I'm going to show you 3 here that have a different kind of a narrative. I told the story in a different kind of quirky way. This doesn't even have someone explaining what it is because you know what it is. So I want to kind of just find a cool way to make you feel all happy. How did I find the music for this? I thought to myself, this needs some upbeat acoustic guitar. So I went on archive.org, found upbeat acoustic guitar, and also I kind of wanted to have a cool kind of intro for this. And so what I did was, everyone was just lined up waiting. So I went to each of them and I said, and of course everyone like hams it up for the camera because they want to get on, right? In fact, there was some show, I can't remember what the show was, where someone it was like a prank show and they went to Canadian Idol or American Idol and they told people that they were with American Idol and would you do this to get on the show? And people were like, one woman signed her firstborn over to the guy. And if she was pregnant and said, and if your baby is born during Canadian Idol or American Idol, then your baby becomes property of CTV or something, and the woman signed it. Like, it was just showing how people will do anything to get on TV, right? So this is the lineup of people, and all I did was, hey, can I get you to say, I'm going to be the next Canadian Idol? And I just went, next, next, next. Say this, say this, say this, and then I cut it this way.
I'm going to be the next Canadian Idol.
I am going to be the next Canadian Idol.
I'm going to be the next Canadian Idol. I'm so excited. Girl next door with big time dreams. I'm going to be the next Canadian Idol.
Canadian Idol.
Honestly, it's what I do, and it's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
I'm feeling good, confident, ready to go. You have to take every opportunity that you get.
I've got to break free. The more I try, it just gets harder.
To be #1.
You're the closest to heaven that I'll ever be. Hey, we got people you think
that I'll freeze up and not remember the lyrics.
So I won't give up, and I won't break down. So hopefully I'll make it this year.
Let's go. Sorry. Any spot.
Right on the
No, well, I'm sad because like it would have been fun to go through, but at the same time, it's like it's an audition. I'm so nervous right now, but this feels so good. It really does. It tickles my fancy.
You could actually almost say I shot that the way Canadian Idol might have shot it, by finding some quirky little thing and putting in music. I kind of did it the way they would have done it, but as opposed to the news would have been like, today 2,000 people showed up at West Edmonton Mall, lined up to have their chance to get a shot at blah blah blah, and then they talk to someone, and then so this is my quirky little thing. I found upbeat music, but you see, there's no one explaining what it is. But I kind of interviewed a whole lot of people. And then you see I kind of just spliced what they said together to create a kind of like fake narrative in a way. Like if you listen to what they're saying, they're kind of like almost saying like I'm trying to be #1.
Honestly, it's what I do, and it's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
I'm feeling good, confident, ready to go. You have to take every opportunity that you get.
I've got to break free. The more I try, it just gets harder.
To be #1.
You're the closest to heaven that I'll ever be. Hey, we got people you think
that I'll freeze up and not remember the lyrics.
We got people here who think that I'm going to freeze up. I won't give up.
And I won't break down. So hopefully I'll make it this year.
So it's like I just kind of put it. Now I kind of Kirby with Pointer, the Pointer Institute.
Oh yeah.
What's it? Kenny Kirby.
Yeah.
Ken Kirby. He's like the, I don't know, god of ethics, I guess you'd almost say, with Pointer Institute. He's like the ethics guy. I got him to watch this, and I said, "Are you okay? Do you think that was ethical?" And he's like, "I like it. It's fine." So I think, so if he approves that this is ethical, then I think it's fine, because cutting up multiple things and putting it together, that's can be iffy. But it's done in a fun way, and I think you don't think I'm trying to mislead and make people look bad. So that was my different way. And the one thing he didn't like was, what's with that still image at the end? It's all video, and all of a sudden it's a still. Well, the reason is because I couldn't shoot video and stills at the same time. And you see when the pink girl is coming out, those are my flashes. Actually, the reporter, I think, was holding the camera. But then, when she came out, I think we had video of her, but it was kind of lame. So I used the still. That's why there's a still there, because it was a.
Didn't like that? Why?
He just didn't like the idea of all of a sudden throwing a still in at the very. That was just a personal preference kind of thing, right? I love, like with the volleyball one. Again, what I said about sports images. I'd rather see a good still image for a few seconds than hitting the ball and it's over. So, and then showing it again 5 times in slow-mo. Any questions about that one? Just kind of found a different, quirky way. Okay, another way to do a narrative is there's what's called natural sound pieces. This one's kind of half natural sound. Natural sound piece means there's like no narration or person telling the story. Natural sound piece means it's just like what's happening there. So, and I do talk to a few people, so it's not a pure natural sound piece, but there's characters. I introduce at the beginning, and then there's no more talking. It's just kind of staying back and watching those characters. And this is troops coming home from Afghanistan, which made my boss cry.
Can't wait to spend a good long break with my family.
Just that I finally get to hug him and hopefully make him feel better. And he hasn't seen Jacob walk, so he really wants me to just let Jacob run to him, which apparently is going to happen tonight because he's fine with walking around. So I hope he goes right to him and recognizes him.
I'm dying to see him holding her, and it's gonna. We haven't felt like a family so far, so it's for the first time we're gonna be complete.
Glad that he's home. It's a big relief. It's a big relief when he walks through that door. It's going to be a real big relief.
Glad he's home.
Wake up.
You've given up a lot of your personal time for this mission. Was it worth it?
Yeah, I think it was. Very hard sacrifice, but there's some guys that have sacrificed a bit more. So right now, yeah.
So it's just, I didn't need a person explaining the story. I don't need a person. Today, the troops came home from Afghanistan after 6 weeks of a long, arduous thing where 3 people died. It's just, that was natural sound. Just finding some characters. How do you feel? And then staying back and just showing. I introduced those 3 characters, and then I showed what happened. When the kid gets to see his kid for the first time, and so. That's just a different way. Again, you don't always have to get the person to explain what's happening today. Troops are coming home. You don't need that. So here's another weird one. This one's kind of short, but this one just turned out surprising. I'm not saying that means it's good, but it was a rally of people opposing Lyme disease. Or no, people who want to create awareness of Lyme disease in Alberta, which you're like, wow, that's... And it was a protest at the legislature. This stuff happens all the time where people go to the legislature building and hold up signs, but no one's there to watch. And so here. So how did I find a way of telling this story? The Raging Grannies were there. If you know who they are, they're this group of old ladies who dress up like old grannies, or maybe they're always dressed like that. And they show up at anything kind of political, and they sing songs that they've made up. So like, they protest oil, they protest everything. And so here they're creating awareness about Lyme disease. So I took their song. They wrote the song that's like the bears on teddy bear picnic, and they changed the lyrics to be about Lyme disease. So I chopped it up, and you'll see.
Next year, you purchase
If you go out to the woods today, you'd better protect your skin.
Today what we're doing is we're having a rally for awareness, just to make people aware of Lyme disease and how you contract it, what the symptoms are.
The ticks are critters that like to bite, if ever you let them in.
Lyme disease is a great imitator. It mimics a lot of other diseases, so people tend to get misdiagnosed and aren't treated properly. So we're just here fighting for better testing and better treatment.
A little bite, the prick of a pin, can put your whole life in a tailspin.
About 2 years ago, she started losing her voice, she started tremoring, had trouble swallowing, and nausea, and like just her hair loss, like heart palpitations, like all these things. It's just, and we just, yeah, it's been tough. I don't know what more else to say. I just hope no one else gets it, you know. That's all. I'm sorry. Emotional.
You best beware, you teddy bears, on a picnic.
I hope we brought some awareness to the idea that you can get Lyme disease in Alberta. You can get it across Canada. And it's a very treatable disease if you catch it early. And so we want to make sure that people, if they suspect it's Lyme disease, please do something about it. Because late Lyme is a terrible disease, and it takes months of antibiotic to get better. And it's so treatable when you catch it early. And right now we're just not seeing a lot of people get the diagnosis early.
The time has come for all smart daddies to make demands from Steady Eddie. A Lyme disease action plan.
It's two things. One thing, the video is way too shaky. I know. I'm sorry. But again, I got to buy this bracket because this camera, it's like you can't put it on your shoulder, so you're always like wobbling. Anyways, and the emotional part there with the woman talking, reporter Elise shot that actually. And it was like, she just kind of came along. She's like, oh, I'll shoot some stuff beside you and try and get something different. And she interviewed this woman. It was just like, wow, really emotional. It was kind of weird because it kind of had this light, fun thing to it. And then all of a sudden, this like woman kind of crying. But anyways, again, this is something that's like a Lyme disease protest. That's boring. And it is boring. And if it had just been that person talking in the shots, it would have been kind of boring. And if it had just been that 2-minute song, or minute song, you go, oh, this is kind of lame. But if you intermix them together, it can maybe pull it together. So I just want to show you that as an example. Okay, golden moments and visual sequences. So there's a few sequences you're going to see in this next video, which are a sequence, again, you're going to see shots when someone is putting on stilts, and I show the person I show the person lacing up their stilts, getting up on their stilts, walking with their stilts, walking by with their stilts. Pay attention to the sequences in this. And in terms of golden moments, golden moment, as I call them, are just those quirky little kind of fun moments you weren't expecting. One of those little moments halfway through the video when you're like, that's what I call a golden moment. And there's a part where I have a kid talking to a puppet, or a part where this little kid gives a high five. And it's just kind of one of those cute little moments where, it's not a person telling the story. It's not just B-roll. It's your natural sound, kind of putting the person there things. So now I have to find it. Circus camp? Oh, here we go. Again, circus camp, you can't go wrong. There's so much stuff happening. Just get the clown to explain what's happening today, and do sequences.
Keep going. I'm going to turn you around. Keep going. Our dream was that kids could come to learn physical theater, puppetry, and magic all week long in a very, very concentrated way.
High five. And
so we brought professionals from all over Canada to come in and teach kids their professional skills. These are people that do this for a living, and they've performed all over the world, and they are here working with kids to help them learn how to do this skill. That was the start of it.
Okay.
Every kid that I've talked to is they're just so jazzed about the whole situation.
At the Big Top Festival, we do physical theater, which is like tightrope walking, juggling, and the silks. And then there's, of course, magic. And oh, let me tell the final part. Sure. Puppetry. Yes.
Your puppet. Very good. Hello. How are you? I'm great. How are you? It's really fun at camp. High five. Whoa, high five. Some kid that might be very, very shy all of a sudden finds that they can ride a unicycle. In fact, there was a little girl came up to me. I was talking to her mom this morning, and she said, well, when she came in on Monday, she took a look at the stilts, and she said, I'll never be able to do stilts. It just scared her. And I have a photograph of her on stilts, and I also have a photograph of her riding a unicycle. 3 days, and she's on it.
I think it definitely gives them a boost of confidence because, not every kid can juggle. And so some kids that maybe don't know that they had a skill, and then they found out that they can juggle or they can walk on stilts and stuff, which is, it's pretty cool stuff. So when they find out they can do that, it's pretty interesting.
I think helps kids develop a self-confidence and helps kids develop skills that are outside of a lot of things that kids are not getting these days.
So there, the interview and the sequences, cute kids smiling, but also, showing, notice also, she's the person talking, but you don't see her until 25 seconds into it. I eventually introduce her. I always do the Cindy Zuby. One other thing, any news videos, this is the thing with me, you can break the rules if you want, but I say, if you're introducing the person, lower thirds. Their name in the bottom and their title, right? Don't do the scrolling text kind of thing, right? Or spitting text or any of those weird effects. There's certain things in news. Ask yourself, do they use scrolling text or colorful rainbow letters on TV or in documentaries? No, you can find a way to break the rule, but typically, if you're introducing a person, just put the name under there. It looks a lot more pro. And that was a little golden moment, just showing what it was like to be there. This is a sequence, him tying the shoes, helping him up, walking, showing just the stilts. Oh, good for you, you did it, kind of thing. Talking to the kid wheeling away, the kid doing it, this kind of thing. And also, remember I said, I could follow this girl, or I could just let her walk by. Also notice, I just did ambient sound here. I call it giving the person a break, giving the viewer a break. It doesn't have to be talk, 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 talk the whole way through. Give the person a break.
I think helps kids.
So there's that one. Okay, talk more about finding a character. Vintage tractor pull, which is kind of neat, old guys on tractors. And you kind of, okay, old people fix up their old tractors and they have a competition to see whose old 1930 tractor can pull the most weight kind of thing. Kind of a quirky Albertan prairie kind of thing. But look at the character that I find. Someone very unexpected you find at an old tractor pull.
what it does is it gets your old antique tractors out that people farmed with in the 40s, 50s, and they get a chance to see what that tractor can do or what it can pull. And I mean, whether it's in its original work clothes or whether it's restored, we try not to discriminate in any way with that. So when you're, first of all, your tractor is put into a class, and that's to be fair and competitive because these tractors are all different horsepowers, they're all different weights. Right now we have, I think it's 89 members. We just about touched our 90, and we have people from, I guess you could say 14 years old all the way up to 90 years old.
Well, I didn't really get into it. I don't know, I've been around tractors when I was little and all that. Came back here and decided to pick off where I left off. It's a nice hobby to get into. Anywhere from driving it to fixing it, plowing grader, plowing lawns, whatnot. It's interesting. Well, I prefer a car, but I don't have my license yet, so it's good enough for me for now. It's a pimp mobile. You're like, yo, look at this gangster driving a vehicle here with this tractor. Like, yeah, it's pretty sweet. I mean, you can do a lot of fun stuff. Like, you can't drive in fields with cars or anything like that. This you can drive pretty much anywhere you want.
They're easier to maintain, they're easier to repair. I guess you could say the technology was more simple then. It was realistic. You didn't have computerization, microprocessors, all that. And what it is basically just reviving that old heritage.
So yeah, who'd think you'd find a 20-year-old black kid driving a, right? It's so out of place, so that's your character. I think I probably should have introduced that kid earlier in the video, but I guess that was my little surprise kind of thing. Probably most people wouldn't have got that far into it, and that was, I'd say, the best part of the video. But any questions so far? So, okay, finding a, yeah, he doesn't even have his license yet.
He's not even 16.
Okay, 5, 6 is, you did that, did that. Okay, so now we'll do a couple funny ones. These are ones where are funny, that you have some funny moment in it or something. Cow. So this is a chocolate milk chugging competition, which is funny, but the thing was that the competition was about 10 seconds long. So it was happening at a farm show, so you kind of make it about the farm show, and then the peak of the video, because if it was just the chugging competition, it'd be 10 seconds long. It wouldn't be that good. It wouldn't be that long, so you kind of find a way to mix the two together, what's happening and the event, which is C for cow show. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, go.
Cheer up! Cheer up! Cheer up! That's, you know, probably healthier than a beer guzzling contest, right?
We've got about 25 exhibits that go on. We have a livestock display, and then we have a milking display, a petting zoo, milking demonstrations, just a lot of stuff just related to the dairy industry. The milk drinking competition's been going on ever since we've had, probably for 10 years. We've given them the option, they can drink chocolate milk or white milk, so you can have a chance to go either way.
I've never entered a milk drinking contest in my life. My strategy? Gulp.
Yeah, we're done.
And do you know what makes a good milk sugar?
Oh, I don't know. Somebody who isn't afraid to spill a little on his shirt, probably.
What are you doing? Wasting chocolate milk?
I'm definitely out of practice.
So yeah, but the actual chugging competition was 10 seconds, and then the kid puked after, but you can't make it that. So you find a way to make it, you talk to the people, you talk to the quirky people, hey, why would you compete in this, and stuff. So
How'd you slam it down?
Yeah, she was serious about it. Okay, here's another one here. There's two more that are pretty funny.
nervous in class, that's why they're laughing.
Oh, really? Or have you shooting it before, or?
No, just I just pointed out this is something because they have to do
An event?
An event, yeah.
Oh yeah, you can't go.
Events, and
this is an event, and this is
every time I bring it up, they laugh.
And it's one of those things you go to, and it's like you have no excuse not to come back with something.
Yeah.
Think of how many times throughout this video could I hit pause, and that could be a still image.
Baby, start your engines. All right, on your mark, get set.
Well, this morning we have 10 heats. We have 5 babies racing at a time, and then we have a semi-final and a final where the 2 babies will race off to see who becomes the first place winner and who becomes the second place winner. So it should be fun. We only have 1 parent in the area at one time, and they can use anything they need to bring the babies across. Any babies that stand are unfortunately disqualified, but it's a ton of fun. Ooh, the competition for the baby crawl is fierce.
Because they're crazy. It's just fun for babies. The big prize was a $1,000 RSP, which is, it's pretty substantial. So it's kind of a nice way to start them off. And they probably think it's torture for these babies that are being left on a stage with crazy people shouting and screaming all around them. Oh, you have to find their favorite toy and make sure that they can see you at the end. And if they can see you and they can find their toy, they usually come crawling.
I used the puppy's water dish. It obviously didn't work, but normally he crawls right to it. TV remote and little toy.
I use my magic keys. Works like a charm every time, except at nap time.
Here we go, yeah!
16 years, gold medal panel.
You'll notice I like to give a good quote at the beginning, and just one thing I do, like a style I do now, is I often, during the end credits, I give a quote. There's that. That was pretty cute. And I mean,
So was it Heartbeat, Brad?
I went on archive.org and I just found but the problem is that most people don't watch videos on computers with big bassy speakers. And so if you're just watching this with your built-in speakers or with crummy earbuds, you hear nothing. You just hear, because they can't reproduce that bass. And so most speakers, you can't even hear it. It just sounds like the audio is missing. But here it works, I think.
Baby, start your engines. All right, on your mark, get set.
I probably could have, that was the only heartbeat I could find easily. I'm sure I could have found one that had better sound, more mid-range. But anyways, again, I wanted a quirky opening. Also, start your first 5 seconds, baby start your engines. I don't even know if that audio matched this, just so you know. I think Start Your Engines might have been from a different part, and I took the audio from there and I mixed it with this. That's okay. And first 10 seconds, you know what this is about. Anyways, so, okay, another funny one. And when I say funny, I don't just mean like, I mean it's like one that makes you go, oh, that's cute, an event. Here we go. Cannot go wrong with animals ever. Bunny rabbit agility. Did you know that rabbits could do this? You've seen dogs do this, but did you know that rabbits can do this?
Come on, Star. Good boy. Come on, Star. Okay, the sport is called rabbit hopping, and we got into it because we saw these videos from Denmark on a website and on YouTube, and we thought it looked really interesting, and we were doing the rabbit project with the Calgary 4-H Southpaws at the time, so we started the rabbit hopping.
It is very unusual.
Well, we originally just started with going over the jumps and having the rabbits follow us over, and they gradually just grew to enjoy it, and now we can't stop them from doing it.
Yes, and after a while we could soon teach them to do it off leash, so we don't have to guide them anymore. They can do it on their own.
I was just amazed at how well that the rabbits behaved, and that you can actually train them to do something like that. You know, it's like, you know, we do it with dogs all the time, but you know, people just think rabbits just kind of sit there and do nothing, but actually they're quite intelligent.
Well, at the moment we started with rabbit hopping, which was just with the jumps, with poles and jumps, and gradually we moved on to agility, which is exactly like the dog agility, just for rabbits. So you have your A-frame, your tire jump, your tunnels. Come on.
They'll often pick up the poles in their mouth and toss them over so they can go through the middle or something, so.
Yeah. Well, first you have to have a really good bond and friendship with them before they'll even listen to you. Let's go.
And you've just got to give them a lot of praise and affection. And just work with them a lot, and patience is key.
Come on, don't eat it. Don't eat it. Good boy.
So yeah, you can't go wrong with animals. And it's something different. That's a weird, obscure sport, you know. Again, my interview with the girls was kind of boring. They were kind of stiff. They actually had, I guess they had like pre-practiced like with their press release for what they were going to say to the media. But I was the only media there. But you know, it was cute, and it's only 1:38. How much time do we have? Not enough. Never enough. Okay, I'll show you one. What do I have left to explain? Okay, so I'm just going to do time-lapse video. Time-lapses are a cool way to bring life to something or make something go a little faster. So this is a story. I don't know if you ever heard River Valley Cycle burnt down a couple of years ago, and like 12 people or a bunch of people were left without jobs, and it was a pretty, I think it had been around for 24 years or something, so it affected the community a lot. Anyways, luckily insurance paid for all the wages of the employees. They were able to stay on staff while they rebuilt. So this is a story about them rebuilding it, and they got, I think, 600 or 800 bikes, and they come partially assembled, and so they had to assemble like 600 bicycles in like a few days for their grand opening. So what's a good way to show that? Time-lapse.
We had the whole shop go up, and there was nothing left. We lost absolutely everything.
You start to realize that something that, you know, as long as nobody gets hurt, it's a part of life and life goes on. And we definitely see that with the new store opening up. At first, like when it first happened, I had no idea what was going to happen, whether I even had a job to come to or whatever.
There was 9 of us that were working full-time at the time, and we've been able to, through the you know, the blessing of insurance, we've been able to maintain all of our staff pretty much. In the last 2 weeks, we've been doing our finishing touches, getting our inventory in, getting products set up and merchandised. We had all of our suppliers hold off as much as possible. They've been stockpiling inventory for us over the course of the winter time. Around about middle of February, basically, we once we got our security in place, we opened the floodgates, and you know, we're blessed with plenty of storage in the back, so we just received everything in. We had pallet racking set up ready to go, and once the bikes arrived, then we just had our crew go to work putting everything together. It takes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours per bike to build them. An hour to 5 hours, depending on if it's a custom or what have you. We've received somewhat over 500 so far.
Interesting how destruction can lead to something even better. The amount of destruction and the time that all that happened, and now for us to be at a point where we have a new shop and a new store, essentially, it's a good thing. Not the fire itself, but all the things that have happened afterwards have all been really positive. No real negative downside to it.
you know, basically it's an enormous number of hours to, you know, just to get everything put together. I don't recommend it. That's for sure. But you know, you got to do what you have to do, basically, right?
I'll show you part of one quick. So that's just time lapse. You know, interesting way to keep it a visual. You know, and here's another time lapse. Here we're just doing a story about clean air, and we're doing a story about how Edmonton's air isn't that clean because there's so much industry around. And so I wanted to do a video about clean air, so I figured I'd show contrast. I'd show pollution and clean air and kind of show them together and make you think about the air we breathe.
Most Albertans take it for granted that we have clean air. They compare it to what's seen in Beijing and they think, well, our air is clean, we don't have that problem. And no wonder. The provincial government told us that Edmonton's air quality was good 97% of the time last year. So we give little thought to all the nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, and dozens of other pollutants coming from the smokestacks of industry and the tailpipes of vehicles. The Journal took a closer look at what's in the air we breathe by analyzing data and talking to experts. A lot of people don't understand that the science increasingly shows it doesn't take much to impact human health. In August, the Canadian Medical Association said polluted air is expected to prematurely kill 172 Albertans this year and send another 8,638 Albertans to hospital for emergency department visits. Some of the more toxic pollutants emitted in the Edmonton area include the heavy metals such as arsenic, mercury, and lead. These chemicals are being emitted in greater quantities than they were in 1994. The Edmonton area has an abundance of coal-fired power plants, refineries, and chemical plants. That means more heavy metals, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxides than other cities might experience. The booming population has also clogged our roads with more trucks and other vehicles. Again, that means more nitrogen dioxide and tiny bits of particulate matter that can penetrate deep into our lungs. In this series, you will learn who the polluters are and how air quality affects us.
So that's just, again, shooting a bunch of nature, pretty scenes, and, you know, got the, didn't even necessarily need the reporter narrating, but I wanted her to kind of introduce the series. This is kind of the video to kick off this big series we did on clean air. But, you know, like, just find a pretty, these are all still photos. Find a pretty still image, hit record, let it go for 10 minutes. This whole sun or moon rising, I think it's only 10 minutes it took to move that far, or maybe less. It moves surprisingly fast, actually. So these are all just pretty pictures, and that's another way of shooting is, you know, just think like a photographer, make a bunch of pretty pictures. So we're out of time. So any questions? We'll get into editing next time, and there's way more to say there. But just, you know, I'm showing you some examples of video and stuff. Obviously, there's a lot more, but this handout I gave you, newsvideographer.com, an amazing resource. Check out there. There's tons of links and everything. I could give you a whole page of links, but then you just get overwhelmed and won't go to any of them. So just go to newsvideographer.com to start. And, you know, there's so much information out there. And hopefully I helped you too.